Good morning, everyone. Uh, am I audible to you all?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So today let us start. Is the slide visible to you all? Is the slide visible to you all?
No, sir.
Slide is not visible.
No, sir.
Okay, okay. Very, I'll just make sorry. पॉजिटिव नेगेटिव देखिए करिए এটা ডিসি সাপ্লাইটা পজিটিভ নেগেটিভ টি দেখি এটা কোন পজিটিভ নেগেটিভ পজিটিভ না নেগেটিভ জানি এটা কেতে एंपিয়ার ଥିଲା এটা 4 ভোল্ট 1 एंपিয়ার আওয়ার এটা যদি 4 ভোল্ট 3 एंपিয়ার ছোটটা আছে ইনসর্ট ହେଇଯିବ ଆଉ ମୁଁ କ୍ଲାସ ବନଉଛି ଆପଣ କରନ୍ତୁ Is the slide visible to you all? Still it is not
Yes,
visible? Yes?
visible, visible, sir.
Okay, okay, fine, thank you. Before starting the class, let me remind you that today we are having our first lab. So in the first lab, I will be playing a video for you all. So as I have told you yesterday that please keep yourself an amplifier or a speaker so that you can hear the voice. The voice playback is a little bit of low intensity, so maybe you will face some problem in listening to it. So please keep a speaker handy so that during the playback you can hear it. And I'll play the video at around 2:05, and I will not be available from 2:05 to 2:15 because I have to have the lunch because today continuously I am having your classes. So please excuse me for those 10 minutes, and after 10 minutes I will come back, and as the video is playing I will be present over here. Any sort of any doubt, please ask me over there. I'll stop the video, I'll pause it, and I'll clear your doubt over there. Similarly, in the next lab, I'll also be giving you some important demonstration via video. So at least for 2 classes, you use your speakers to listen to my voice. Okay, fine. So let us start our class. So as we are talking about electric field and electric charge, so yesterday we discussed some important salient features of this charge. Today we will move on what are the different properties of this charge. Okay. So usually our charge is associated with 4 number of properties. The first property is very common to all, everybody knows about it. The property says that like charges repel whereas unlike charges attract. That means if you are having 2 positive charges or 2 negative charges, then we call that pair as a like charges. And both of them, when they will come close to each other, you can see they were trying to repel each other. For example, if there is a positively charged body and another positively charged body is present near to it, then obviously it is going to repel each other. But if the charges are not same or are not of the same polarity, for example, a positively charged body when comes in close vicinity to a negatively charged body, obviously they are going to attract each other. So why the like charges repel and why unlike charges attract? So somehow physically we will try to understand, we will try to prove when we will study about the electric lines of forces. So we can somehow prove that like charges are going to repel and unlike charges are going to attract once we cover the electric field lines. So remind me when we are going to study about that particular chapter over there, I'll explain why like charges are repelling each other and unlike charges are attracting each other. So the first property we have already studied. Now let us move on to the second property. That is polarization. When a charged body comes near to a neutral body, it leads to polarization, which ultimately leads to attraction. Now this is known as the property of polarization. What does that mean? Okay, let me explain it to you. Suppose, let us say, this is quite a common experience. Many people have experienced it. Suppose I am having a balloon, and this balloon, let us say, is positively charged. Okay, so it is having less number of electrons. Some of the electrons are swept away from the surface, and therefore it becomes positively charged. And let us say this is the wall. This is a wall. Okay. So what happens? This wall is absolutely neutral. That means the total number of positive and negative charges are equal in number. So these positive and negative charges are arbitrarily placed. Okay. So they are placed haphazardly like this everywhere. Now what happens? Suppose let us say this positively charged balloon comes in contact or comes close to this neutral wall, then what happens? It leads to polarization. So what is this polarization? Let us talk about it. Now what happens? As you can see, this is positively charged and this is absolutely a neutral body. But over here, yesterday we have been talking that electrons are much lighter than that of the positive charge, and moreover, they are present in the outermost orbit. Now, what is going to happen is that since these electrons are very light, they are mobile in nature. Okay, somehow they are mobile in nature. So what happens? So what happens when this positively charged body is going to come near to this neutral body? Before that, there is no case of attraction between both of them. But now let us say I will bring this positively charged balloon near to this neutral wall, then what is going to happen? These negative charges which are present they are distributed randomly throughout the surface of this wall. They are going to align themselves along the surface of the wall. Okay, that means these electrons, as they are lighter in weight and moreover they are present in the outermost orbit of the atom, therefore these electrons will try to move towards the surface of the wall. Now what happens? In this way, these electrons are sometimes also known as surface free charges. Okay, so these electrons will present or they will align themselves along the surface of the wall. So naturally, even though this entire body still remains in neutral state because the number of electrons and number of positive charges are same, but still then there is some sort of alignment of the electrons towards the left hand side of this wall. So in this case, what happens? This is somehow going to induce something known as an induced charged surface. Okay, so this portion will somehow behave like a negatively charged surface. Believe me, or strictly speaking, this entire wall is still electrically neutral. But the thing is that since almost all the electrons, free electrons, they have been deposited on this side, on the left hand side of this wall, therefore it leads to induced free charge, something known as induced free charge. So in this way, what is going to happen? This positively charged balloon will always try to move towards, is always going to move towards or is going to get attracted toward the surface of this wall. Why? Because there are a number of electrons present on the surface. Therefore, there will be some sort of attraction between them. Okay, so this is known as polarization. So whenever a positively charged body is going to come near to a neutral body, then remember the electrons are going to align themselves along the side which is facing the positively charged body. This is known as polarization. And whenever there is polarization, obviously it leads to induced surface charge. So in this case, it is induced negative charge. So induced negative charge is going to attract this positively charged balloon, which is quite light. If it is a very massive body and it is very heavy in weight, obviously there will be force of attraction, but you cannot see it or you cannot feel it. But since the balloon is very light, you will see that the balloon is going to touch the surface of the wall. So this is known as polarization. So polarization always leads to attraction. So this is the second most important property of a charge. The third one is conservation of charge. So as you can see over here, it is written that the algebraic sum of all electrical charge in a closed system is constant. What does that mean? That means, suppose let us say I have a closed system. So first we have to understand what do we mean by a closed system. Now when we are talking about a system, it can refer to anything. It can refer to a mechanical system, it can refer to a thermal system, it can refer to an electrical system. Since we are this particular syllabus is dealing with electricity and magnetism, so over here the closed system is nothing but their closed electrical circuit. So what is a closed electrical circuit? Let us first try to understand. So always remember that a circuit is going to contain one source, energy source, maybe it is a battery with a positive and negative polarity like this. Definitely it is going to have some load. Okay, so the load can be anything. It may be a DC fan or it may be a bulb which is going to glow. So a load is something which is going to use the energy that is given out by this energy source to do some work, useful work. Now obviously in this case the battery is isolated, the load is isolated. Now suppose I will connect them, I will connect the energy source to that of the load through conductors. So these are the conductors that I am going to use. So when I am going to close the connect the source with that of the load by means of these conductors, then obviously it is going to form a circuit. But in this case, as you can see, I am also using a switch over here. Now the switch is open, so this is simply known as an open circuit. The moment I will close this switch, it is going to form a closed electrical circuit. Okay. Now this particular property of charge says that conservation of charge. It says that the algebraic sum of all electrical charge in a closed system is constant. Now, let us say that this battery is capable of delivering 16 coulombs of charge. Okay. Now, these wires, let us say, before switching on this switch, okay, let me erase it. So, before switching on this switch, let us say the wire is containing positive 1 coulomb of charge and this wire was containing minus 2 coulomb of charge. And let us say this load itself is let us say it is charged and it is having, let us say, 4 coulombs of charge. Now the moment I will close the switch, what is going to happen? Now the total amount of charge in this circuit is how much? 16 plus 1, 17, 17 plus 4, it is going to be equal to 17 plus 4 is 21 minus 2. So it is becoming 19 coulombs of positive charge is present in the closed system. Okay. Now at any point of time, you cannot simply judge what is the deposition of the charge on each of these individual components. That means you cannot predict how much charge is right now present over this battery, how much is the charge that is present on this load, how much is the charge on these individual wires. Okay. But the moment I will open up this switch, you can see that everything comes back to its original value. That means the moment I will open up this switch, the battery will again be containing 16 coulombs of charge. This wire will contain minus 2 coulombs of charge. This wire is going to contain plus 1 coulomb of charge, and similarly the load is going to contain 4 coulombs of charge. That means when it is closed, you cannot predict because there is a transfer of the charge and there is a movement of this charge throughout the closed system. Okay, because in other way I can say, most of you have studied that whenever there is a closed electrical circuit, current used to flow. Okay, now what is current? It is nothing but the flow of charge. it is a different issue that many books are writing that current is nothing but flow of electrons, but rather current can be defined as the flow of charge. Maybe it is positive charge or negative charge. But as positive charge is denser than that of your negative charge, therefore we usually say the current is actually the flow of electrons. But broadly speaking or generally speaking, that current is nothing but flow of charge. So whenever there is a closed circuit, you cannot say how much is the charge, but there is a circulation of this charge. So from positive the point to the negative point, the charge will continue to flow. So it is not possible to predict how much is the flow of charge or what is the total amount of charge present on this battery, on this load, on these wires. But the moment I will open up, all of them will again come back to the position of the initial condition. That means this battery will have 16 coulomb of charge, this load will have 4 coulombs of charge, and likewise. You understood all this thing? Or should I repeat?
Understood, sir.
Okay, fine, thank you. Now, let us move on. What is quantization of charge? Okay. So now let us move on to the fourth important property of charge, that is quantization of charge. It is quite easy to understand. Total charge is always a whole number of the whole number multiple of the fundamental unit of charge, that is positive or negative 1.6 into 10 to the minus 19 coulomb. So if it is a positive charge, unit positive charge, then that charge is going to contain 1.6 into 10 to the minus 19 coulomb. Similarly, if it is a negative charge or an electron, it will have minus 1.6 into 10 to the minus 19 coulomb. So this is one fundamental unit of charge. Now suppose, let us say, by giving an example you can very easily understand. Suppose I am going to give an example. Let us say that there is a positively charged body. Okay, then I will say that I will ask two sections of students. Suppose I will ask your section to calculate or to measure what is the charge over here. I will give you some instrument to measure what is the total charge of this positively charged body. So from your section, let us say you people told me that it is containing 8 into 10 to the power minus 19 coulombs. And suppose, let us say, I will give this again, I will give this problem to another section student, and they will say that, sir, it is containing, let us say, 7 point, or let us say it is containing 6.4 into 10 to the power minus 19 coulomb. Okay. Now, can anybody tell me out of these two answers, which one is the correct one? Yes, anybody? I have given two section students. Suppose your section is 009.
Second one, sir.
So second one is the correct one. Okay. So is there any other answer? Is there any other answer? Anyone else who want to confirm whether it is 6.4 or it is 8 into 10 to the minus 19 coulomb? Okay. Is there any other one? Okay, fine. So I am very sorry to say that this is the wrong answer. So the other section student gave me the wrong answer. Okay, the actual answer is this one. Now the question is why, how I came to know that this is the correct one. So very simple. Now you can see, as I told you, the fundamental unit is since this. Yes, it is a whole number. That's the correct one. So 8 into 10 to the minus 19 divided by this one is going to give you 5. Okay, that means 5 is a whole number. So this particular means positively charged body is containing 8 into 10 to the minus 19 coulomb, and 8 into 10 to the minus 19 coulomb is 5 times that of 1.6 into 10 to the minus 19 coulomb. So obviously 5 is a whole number. So over here it is correct. Now in this case you can see that 6.4 into 10 to the minus 19. Okay, sorry. So this is also coming to be
also a whole number, man. So
yes, I am sorry. Okay, I am sorry. Let us make it 6.9. I am sorry. Please, anyone who has told this is also somewhat correct. Okay. So if suppose, let us say it is 6.9 into 10 to the minus 19. So in this case, what is going to happen? This is obviously not a whole number multiple of the figure 1.6 into 10 to the minus 16. That is the reason why I can say that this answer is not correct. So this is known as quantization of charge. That means charge is always in a whole number multiple of the fundamental unit of charge. Okay. So this is all about your conservation, quantization of charge. Hope you people have understood it. Or is there any doubt? So these small questions will come for 2 marks, or maybe in your internal or in your quizzes, we will put questions like this. Suppose I will say that a body is found to be having a charge of minus 7.1 into 10 to the minus 19 coulomb. Is the prediction or is the measurement correct? So obviously you have to write it is incorrect. Why? Because this is not being a whole number multiple of the fundamental unit of charge. So this is rejected. So this type of question will definitely come for your quiz test. I hope everybody have understood it. Now let us move on to the next one. Now let us, till now we have been talking about the charge. So what we studied, let us try to summarize everything. So charge is a fundamental unit of any matter. Like your mass, charge is also a fundamental unit, because every matter is made out of particles which are also made out of atoms. Atoms consists of your positive charge and negative charge. In this way, we can say that your positive charge and negative charge, they are the fundamental of every particle or matter in this universe. Therefore, it is known as a fundamental property. Next, we studied that charge, different properties of charge. So, obviously, the different properties, the first property is very well known to everybody: like charges repel and unlike charges attract. Next, we studied about the polarization. So when a charged body is coming near to a neutral body, it leads to the polarization effect. That means the positive and negative charges, they will try to some extent, they will try to separate themselves, but the neutral body is still going to be neutral. But the thing is that they are going to align themselves into two sides, and the one which is containing the negative charges will obviously attract the positively charged body, and the positively charged body will stick to the surface if it is not very heavy. Next, we talked about the conservation of charge. That means in a closed electrical system, the total, or if we will add all of the charges, it is going to remain constant. Next, we studied about a quantization of charge. Over here, we talked that a charged body is obviously going to contain a charge which is going to be a whole number multiple of the fundamental figure, that is plus minus 1.6 into 10 to the minus 19 coulomb. So this is what we have studied till now. Till now we have been talking about charge. So how to make a body charged? Okay. So yesterday we have discussed a number of examples. The first way we can charge a body is by friction, or which is also sometimes known as turbocharging. So in this case, we have studied that if there is a piece of very smooth piece of iron rod which is having a very smooth surface, and we are going to rub it by means of an abrasive surface like your cotton, like your silk, or your satin cloth, then obviously it is going to swipe out or wrap out all the electrons which are present on the surface, because electrons are very mobile and they are very light, means not attracted, means they are held by weaker nuclear forces. So naturally the outermost electrons will be swapped out, and therefore there will be deficiency of electrons on the surface of the glass rod, and in this way it is going to be positively charged. The other method also we discussed today, so that is the method of polarization. So in polarization, what we can do is that suppose this body, the negative charges are deposited on this side. Now what is going to happen? These charges may also reside on the surface. So if we want, if we will swipe and somehow will wrap out, or by means of some, let us say, feather, we just take out this electrons, free surface electrons, then also it is going to be charged. So it is going to be positively charged because these electrons will be swapped out and ultimately there will be more number of positive charges, and this body again is going to be a positively charged body. Okay, so by using the method of polarization and this turbocharging, we can also make a body charged. So now from this section onwards, we will start with our syllabus. So whatever till now we have been studying, that was just a preliminary requirement that you people require in order to study this in detail or with ease. Now let us talk about this Coulomb's electric force law. Okay, so this Coulomb's law is an experimental law in physics. What does that mean? That means Mr. Coulomb has conducted a lot of experiments, number of experiments, and ultimately he has concluded this Coulomb's law. Okay, that means practically you can show this experiment, but practically you can prove it, but mathematically through derivation you cannot prove it. So this is known as experimental law, or sometimes in many books they are also writing it as empirical law. So empirical and experimental law are based on experiments, repeated experiments, which concludes the same thing. But mathematically, it is not possible to derive these types of equation. So Coulomb's law is an experimental law in physics that quantifies, please note, it quantifies the electric force between two charged bodies at rest. Okay, so these particular two lines are very important. It quantifies the electric force. That means it is going to give you the mathematical value of the electric force between two charged bodies at rest. If it is not at rest, if it is moving or mobile, then you cannot apply Coulomb's electric force law. Okay, so these two bodies, whether they are two charged body, positively charged or two negatively charged or unlike charged, if they are at rest, then only you can apply this Coulomb's law in order to find out what is the force of attraction or repulsion between the two charges, and you can get the exact mathematical value. So what does this Coulomb's law states? So this Coulomb's law states that, first point, it is directly proportional to the product of the two charges. Okay, so you people have studied all this thing, we are just repeating it once again. It is inversely proportional to the square of the distance between the two charges. And last one, it acts along the straight line joining the two charges. That means this first two is going to give you the magnitude of the force between the two charges, and the last one, that is this one, is going to give the direction of the electric force between the two charges. So mathematically we can say that the electric force which is going to act between charge Q1 and Q2 is equal to, obviously this is the magnitude part which we are getting from the first 2 points, and this is the direction part which we are getting from the last point. So this thing seems to be a little bit confusing, so everything will be clear when we will go for the next slide. Okay, so I have told you that from now onwards we are not going to use the coordinate points, rather we are going to define, or any point will be in space will be defined by means of position vector. Okay, so over here we are going to use this position vectors in order to find the solution. Remember, in your book it is not given in this manner, it is given in a more complicated manner. That is why I felt the need that we must replace that complicated part so that you can get the answer or you can solve the problem in the easiest possible way. For that only I have introduced this position vector and distance vector. So please go through all these two important things so that solving problems will be very easy on our part. Now, so let us come back to that Coulomb's law. Let us try to visualize what is actually the Coulomb's law is saying. Okay? So everybody, are you understanding what I am saying? Please be attentive from now onwards, because these things are different from that what is given in the textbook, and the method that I am going to give you is going to prove that it is very easy to while solving the problems, and also it will be explaining the details. Just a minute. Ringu Devi. Please be online. Excuse me for. Okay. So Coulomb's law says that the electric force of attraction or repulsion between 2 point charges. Now the first thing that is to be noted over here is point charge. So what is a point charge? Okay. So in this particular subject, you will come across different terms like point charge, point charge. You will come across something known as test charge. You will come across charged body. So all these important things, they are all different from each other. Charged body. So point charge is different from that of a test charge is different, and test charge is different from a charged body. So please note these particular words. Point charge, test charge and charged body. All of these three are completely different from each other. Obviously, this point charge and this test charge, we will study that both of them are similar to each other, but still then there are some differences. So please be very attentive and listen what I am saying. Okay. So here it is written that let. Now here in the I have shown the coordinate axes. There are two charges Q1 and Q2 which are present in the space, and Q1 instead of telling or giving the location in terms of coordinate points, rather I have given the position by means of the position vector R1. Similarly, for Q2, the position vector is R2. In place of means using coordinate points, rectangular coordinate points, I have mentioned or I have depicted the location in terms of this position vector R2 and R1. Okay, so there are 2 point charges. What is the meaning of point charge? That means a charge which is just like a point. It is not having any dimension. So neither it is a square, neither it is a line, nor it is a line segment, nor it is a volume, neither it is having a surface, nothing like that. It is simply a point. Point charge. That means a point which is having some charge. Now the point charge may be positive, may be negative. Please note that a point charge is a point which is having some charge, and it may be positive and negative. Whereas a test charge is also a point charge, but always remember it is always positively charged. Okay, please note the difference. Point charge is nothing but a point having a charge which may be positive charge or may be negative charge. Whereas a test charge is a point charge which is only having positive charge. Okay, and this test charge is usually used to test or measure the values of different electrical parameters that we will come across in electric field, like your electric field strength, your electric forces, when we are going to find the electric lines of forces or the electric field, then we will make use of this test charge. For the time being, we are not concerned with it. So let us concentrate only to point charges. So please remember, point charge is a point which is having either a positive polarity or a negative polarity. So over here, try to understand this figure. So there are 2 point charges Q1 and Q2. They are having the position vector R1 and R2. And this X, Y, Z is the coordinate axes. AX cap, AY cap and AZ cap, as the name suggests, they are your unit vectors. Now, let the 2 point charges Q1 and Q2 have position vector R1 and R2 respectively. The electric force acting between Q1 and Q2 is F12. So the electric force is represented in this manner. Now, please remember that whenever we are writing this electric force F vector 1, 2, now the position of this 1, 2 is very important. This suggests that I am calculating the force on the charge Q2 because of this charge Q1. Please remember this thing, because this is very important, because F12 is not going to be the same as the vector F21. So F12 vector is not the same as F21 vector. Why? Because their magnitudes may be same, but the directions are opposite to each other. So magnitude wise they may be same. That means if 1 2 magnitude is same as that of your F21 vector, but their directions are completely opposite to each other. So this one is correct, but this, when we are representing in terms of vector, it is not going to be the same. Please remember these important points, and don't forget that F12 means it is the electric force on the charge Q2 because of the charge Q1. Similarly, if I write F21, it represents the force on the charge Q1 because of the charge Q2. So please be very careful in using the notation. So in the last slide, we came to know that electric force is a vector quantity. Obviously, it is going to have some magnitude, and obviously it is going to have a direction. Now, what is the magnitude? So over there, we have already studied it is directly proportional to the product of the two charges. So over here, you can see the product of the two charges are Q1 and Q2. Next, it is inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. Very good. So the distance between them. So since everything is defined in terms of position vector, so the distance between them is in terms of distance vector. So you know, when we are going to find the magnitude of the distance vector, it gives the distance between the two charges. So here I have used modulus of R1 vector 1 2 and square times, because it is inversely proportional to the square of the distance separating them. Now just have a look. See, here we have used directly proportional, inversely proportional. So obviously there must be a constant of proportionality, and that constant of proportionality is nothing but 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0. Okay. Next comes your direction. So how to find the direction? Finding the direction is quite easy. So the direction is R12 vector divided by the modulus of R12. So there is no necessity of writing a 0 over here. By mistake it is written. Is there anyone with any sort of doubt? Yes? Any one of you who is having any doubt over here? Okay. Next. So F12 vector is equal to Q1 Q2 by 4 pi epsilon 0. So this is the magnitude part, and the direction part is given by A cap R12 by R12 modulus square, where this one is nothing but the unit vector along F12 vector. Or in place of this AR1, I can simply replace this AR12 by means of R12 by R12 modulus. So here there is a square, so another R12 term will be multiplied to give you to the power 3. Now what is R12? R12 is nothing but the position vector of the charge Q2 minus the position vector of R1. So this is the total equation or representation of the electric force in terms of vector. So rather than using the magnitude and direction, calculating magnitude and direction separately, by using this particular formula, we can simply in one way, or in one go, we can find the solution. Now let us talk about the constant of proportionality. So the constant of proportionality is 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0. So that is equal to 9 into 10 to the 9 Newton meter square by Coulomb square. Now what is this epsilon 0? Epsilon 0 is nothing but the permittivity of free space or air. So whether it is vacuum, free space or air, it is somewhat nearly equal to 8.85 into 10 to the minus 19 Coulomb square by Newton meter square. Okay. Now can anybody tell me what is the meaning of permittivity? Yes? Yes, anyone from you who can tell me what is the physical meaning of permittivity?
Sir, what is E space?
Huh?
Sir, what is E space?
E space, free space. Free space means vacuum.
Yes, sir, got it.
Okay. Now
the ability of a substance to store electricity in the electric field is called the permittivity.
No, my dear, it is absolutely a wrong definition. Absolutely wrong. Okay, thank you for trying. Is there anyone who can tell me what is permittivity? Any other answer you know? So many
Like
times,
the
yes, yes.
the ease with what ease the charges can move in free space.
Okay, you are partially correct. Partially correct. It is not actually the movement of charge. So if charges starts moving, it is nothing but current. And the ease of movement of current is known as conductivity. So permittivity and conductivity, they are related, but it is not, you are getting only 50% of the mark. Is there any other one?
The
Sir,
amount of electric
measure
field
of
which can pass
Yes.
through space.
Please repeat it once again.
The amount of electric field which can pass through space, or which can, sir, if there is high permittivity, then the charges will, the field will easily pass through that substance.
Okay, you are 75% correct. Okay, that's quite a good answer. Okay, that's somewhat correct. I'm happy with your all your answers. Even if you are giving a wrong answer, doesn't matter, because I am the only one present over here who is going to correct you. Okay, so don't worry. Just even if you don't know, just whatever you think, you tell me. Okay.
Ability
So
to store charge electric
no,
field.
no, no, no. It is not the ability to store charge. It is known as capacitance. Capacitance is the ability to store charge.
Sir,
That is
ability to store electrical energy.
no, that is also capacitance. The ability to store electrical energy in an electric field between two conductors separated by an insulating medium is known as capacitance. So that is a different issue. Okay, let me tell you. Now, how to remember it? What does this word permittivity? So this word itself is coming from the word permit.
Penetration,
So permittivity
penetration
means
of
the
charge,
ability
the
of
amount
Okay,
that
okay.
can
Somebody was
penetrate
telling
through
penetration of
a
charge.
substance,
Please repeat once again.
the amount of penetration of charge that a substance can offer.
Penetration of charge. No, no. Slight modification is still necessary. It is not penetration of charge. Yes, another someone was telling.
sir.
Huh?
Sir, it is the ability to store the electrical energy in
No, the
a
same mistake you are telling. No, no, no. Okay, okay. So fine. Everybody here is trying to give some answer. I'm very happy for that. Classes should be interactive in nature. Okay, let me. Okay, whatever you have studied doesn't matter. So right now you try to understand. I'm trying my best to make you understand. So the word permittivity is coming from the word permit. Okay, that means something must, some sort of permission is required. Okay, what is that? Now, just have a look. I will place a positive charge over here. In let us say this is a volume. This is a volume. Okay, this is a volume. I will just inside it. I will place a positively charged body. Now you all know that every charge is going to have or create a field of its own around itself. Okay, in all dimensions. That means the electric field will just start, or it will just immense from the positive charge, just like the rays coming out of the sun. So if I am going to place it inside a volume, and in this volume is nothing but a solid volume. Inside the solid volume there is a cavity, and somehow I placed this positive charge. Okay. Now if this material out of which the volume is made, if that is having a good permittivity, then you will feel the electric field, a stronger electric field anywhere in this space. Okay, so wherever you try to find out the electric field, you will feel a stronger electric field. That means it is the a media which is going to give permission to the creation of this electric field, permission or permit to create an electric field. So, for example, in this case, I have got a volume which is made out of X material, which is made out of X material. Another volume I have of the same dimension, it is made out of Y material, let us say. Okay. Again, it is having a cavity inside which I placed a positive charge. Okay. Now this is made out of Y material. Now you will see, suppose let us say I will try to find out the electric field at this edge at a point A which is located on the edge of this volume. Similarly, I will also try to measure what is the electric field over here at the point A, at the A dash, at the same point, corresponding point in this volume. Now I will see that if these X and Y are two different materials, the field will not be the same. Suppose I am getting a stronger field at the point A than that of the point A dash, I can say that this material X is allowing the creation or the passing of the electric field lines more easily than that of the material which is made out of Y. Are you getting what I am saying? Or should I explain it once again? That means a medium which is giving or allowing the formation of the ease with which it allows the formation of electric field is known as permittivity. Okay? That means in both the cases I have the same dimension. I have placed the two positive charges are exactly the same location, and the point A and A dash are also at the same location. But the only difference is that one volume is made out of X material, the other volume is made out of Y material. So in this case, you will see that there is a difference in the field strength at the point A and A dash. Why is it so? Because if A dash at A you are getting a stronger field than that of A dash, remember that the material X is giving or allowing the formation of this electric field, or it is permitting more number of electric field lines to pass through it. Whereas the material Y is allowing less number of electric field lines to pass through it. So this is known as permittivity. You got the idea? Yes? All those who have answered me, are you getting what I am saying? Or is there any doubt? Please ask me once again. I will explain, because this is the last time you will study about all this thing. After that, nowhere in your entire 4-year syllabus you will study all this thing. So please be very clear with this fundamental.
Yes, sir.
Permittivity.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Sir, explain it again.
Once again I will explain. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, doesn't matter. So just have a look at these two volumes. Okay, these two are two cubes, let us say. One cube is made out of a different material known as X. The other cube is made out of another material Y. Suppose X is let us say metal, Y is let us say fiber material. So these are two different materials. Now just at the center of these cubes there is a cavity, and somehow by any hypothetical mean I am going to place a positive charge. Okay, so a positive charge is placed inside this cavity, another positive charge is placed inside this cavity. Now I want to measure the electric field at this point P, let us say. Okay, suppose at this point P I am getting an electric field of 10 volt per meter. So this is the unit of electric field. So at the point P I am getting an electric field of 10 volt per meter, whereas at the same corresponding point Q, at the point Q, suppose the point Q is over here, I am getting an electric field of let us say 8 volt per meter. Now which one is more? Obviously the one which is having a value of 10 volt per meter. That means I am getting a stronger field at the point P than that of the Q. Now I can say that the permittivity of X is more than the permittivity of Y. What does that mean? That means the material X is allowing more number of electric field lines to pass through the point P Okay, that means it is giving it is permitting more number of electric lines of forces or electric field lines to pass through it, whereas the material Y is allowing less number of electric field lines to pass through it. That means how much easily an electric field lines used to pass through a material is known as permittivity of that material. You got it? Are you getting what I am saying? Yes? Please answer me. Okay. So how we will define permittivity? How we are going to define permittivity? You can just write down on your note copy that for permittivity of a medium, write down permittivity of a medium. Just write it down in your note copy, because the definition of permittivity is a little bit confusing, but absolutely believe me, there is nothing to be confused. So permittivity of a medium is the ease with which the electric field lines can pass. Permittivity of a medium is the ease, EASC, or how easily, is the ease with which the electric field lines can pass through that medium, Or there is another better definition, or permittivity of a medium is defined as permittivity of a medium is defined as the ease with which an electric field can be created, inside that material, inside that matter. So I am writing it. Permittivity is the ease with which the electric field can be created inside the medium. Okay, so permittivity is the ease with which the electric field can be created inside the medium. What is it? Rather, we can write permittivity of the medium. Okay, is it okay for you all?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Now let us move on. So today what we studied, let us have a recap of what we have studied. Please be online. Excuse me for a moment. Okay, so let us summarize what we have studied till now. So today we studied about the different properties of electric field. Then we studied about the Coulomb's electric force law. Over there I told you that it is an experimental law. It is not a derived mathematical law. Number of times experiments are conducted, and if they are getting the same type of results, then it is known as an experimental law or empirical law. So what is this Coulomb's experimental law? It is saying that the electric force acting between 2 point charges is directly proportional to the product of the two charges, inversely proportional to the square of the distance between the two charges, and it acts along the straight line joining the two charges. So the first 2 points is going to give you the magnitude of the electric force, whereas the last line is going to give you the direction of the electric force. Since electric force is a vector quantity, so obviously it will have a magnitude part and a direction part. Okay. Next, over here in this particular diagram, we have tried to visualize the statement. Over here, I have two charges Q1 and Q2, whose location are given by the position vector R1 and R2, and the distance between them is represented by the distance vector R12. Now, as I told you, this electric force is a vector quantity. So the magnitude part is given by the first 2 points of your Coulomb's law, that is Q1, Q2 by R12 square. Now, since it is a proportionality is there, or there will be a constant of proportionality, therefore, that constant of proportionality is given by 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0. Now, the total magnitude of this electric force is given by Q1, Q2 by 4 pi epsilon 0 R12 square. Next, since it is a vector quantity, obviously it is going to have a direction. So the direction is given by the distance vector by the modulus of the distance vector. Next, in the slide, we came across to write this electric force equation of this electric force either in terms of your position vector and distance vector. So over here I have mentioned it. Next, we have studied about the constant of proportionality, and mathematically if you will calculate 1 by 4 pi epsilon, then definitely you are going to get the value 9 into 10 to the power 9 Newton meter square per Coulomb square. Now, out of this 1, 4, pi, all this thing you know except this epsilon 0. Now this epsilon 0 is known as the permittivity of free space, and its value is equal to 8.85 into 10 to the power minus 19 Coulomb square per Newton meter square. Now what is permittivity? So permittivity of a medium is the ease with which the electric field can be created inside the medium. Or in other words, we can say permittivity of the medium is the ease with which the electric field lines can pass through the medium. So how easily the medium is going to allow the electric field lines to pass through it is known as permittivity. Very simple thing. So since the time is already over, so we'll stop our class over here. So tomorrow we'll study about the superposition of electric forces. Then we will solve a problem. Finally, we'll study about this electric field strength, and we'll study about the direction of this electric field due to point charge, superposition of electric field. Then we'll solve it. So with this, I am going to end this class. But before ending this class, let me remind you all that today we are going to have the lab. Please use some speaker or any amplifier or earphone so that you can hear my voice clearly. Because in the recording when I am playing it back, it is creating a very low voice. So please use it so that you can understand it clearly. I will be present with you. The lab will start at 2 and it will end at 4. The video is of 1 hour 22 minutes. But I will, you please join at 2 o'clock and I will join you at 2:10 or 2:15 maximum. So please be online. Let me take a screenshot. Please be online. You people can leave. So thank you.
Good afternoon, all of you.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. So, where were we in the last class? Quick recapitulation of what we did in the last class. Yeah, anyone?
Ma'am, we were doing argumentation.
Argumentation. Okay. So, what is argumentation? Yeah. So, how does argumentation have a tremendous potential power to shape our world? Yes. So we were talking about this. What is argument? And why is there a need to argue? Why do we basically argue? What is the need for argument?
It engages us in critical thought.
Okay. And how does argument have tremendous potential power to shape our world? That was the question. Can someone recapitulate elaborately what we did in the last class? Yes, or you don't remember? No one remembers what we did in the last class?